Hello. Okay, guys, this is, I think, what she was asking. Is it Esther? So they said, I can summarize the information for you. Okay, welcome to the, but all the same, let me first do something about it. Okay, so you have the question there, I've shared it. So as I read through, I can refer to it once. So they say that the following guys over is joining, can be muted. Ronald. On 1st January 2011, S acquired 35,000 shares in ARA. Okay, so S acquired shares in ARA. So in our workings, we're saying S acquired shares in ARA. What's the percentage? They say 35. 35,000 the number of shares. So divide by the shares issued. You go to the statement of financial position and look for R. The shares at 100,000 shillings, but each is one, meaning the number of shares must be 100. So you say 100,000. Okay, I'm skipping a step there. I know you're comfortable with it. So we're trying to get the percentage chap times 100%, giving me is divided by that 35%. Okay, so S shares in R. Okay, and this was on 1st January. 1st Jan 2011. Okay, then they say that when the retained earnings of R were 40, okay, on that date, retained earnings were 40,000. Okay. Then they also say that on 1st January 2012, T acquired 64 shares in S. So we can look for T, which is somewhere here. T acquired shares in S. Okay, and they were 64,000. So to get the percentage, you're saying it is 64,000 over number. So 80,000 divided by 1 get 80,000 still. 60 divided by 80, giving me 80%. Okay, then they said on this very date also 40,000 shares in ARA. Okay, so 40,000 shares in ARA. So 40,000 shares out of the 100, which you know, 40%. So you have 40%. Okay, and it was on 1st January 20. Then what else? They say the trend earnings of S and R at that date were 50,000 and let's get this figure. The amount is hidden. Is it 5,000, 60K? What's the amount of R? So for S, it was 40,000. Is
60.
I beg your pardon?
It is 60,000.
60,000. So here there was nothing really hidden or anything like that. How do you know that the equation is complex? Or otherwise, this is what you look out for, the percentages. Once you see these percentages, Jackie, I'm answering your question. Once you see these percentages, you're seeing one is investing in another, there are more than two. Those are complex groups. Okay. So ideally, what you're reading and the percentages that come about is what makes it complex or non-complex. So I don't know that I'm organized in this way, but anyway, summarize this question, which is up there. They're saying that T, first of all, controls S. It has 80%. Okay, then S, I put the 80 there side, 80%. Then S controls S2 or T. Actually, I can control, but has shares in it, and they are only how did I get as percentage? 35%. Okay, then T has shares in, sorry, okay, R, it's R, not T. R. Then T also has shares in R, and they're 40%. So the conditions are clear. As you can see, there's a relationship that is complex in nature. That one controls another, then another controls another, then another has shares in another. That's what you look out for under complex. They're not straight. That's what you're saying. Okay, so unfortunately, my image is not a D, but you click it. So this photo here is up here. Okay, so now to answer your question for retained earnings, you take the date when we become 1, the date when all conditions are met, and that's the later date, which is 1st January 2012. Okay, so retained earnings at acquisition will be the ones on this date of acquisition. All right. So I've answered your question, Esther. Let's go back to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's go to the vertical groups. Where is the question? Yeah, Sandra. Okay, so this is the question. If they don't say that, like it was in writing there, or they say that Ara bought shares or acquired shares in Sandra, and Sandra acquired shares in TVEC, they won't say it. They will put it here in your balance sheet. They'll say that you're saying that 90,000 shares in Sandra. Okay, 90,000 shares in Sandra were paid by Raul, the parent, so invested in Sandra. Then Sandra's books also is showing an investment in TVEC. So this is a vertical group. One invests in another invests in another. Of course, you don't conclude until you draw the percentages and get to know that indeed they are associates accordingly. So if I may, in the additional information of this question says that all the intercompany transactions occurred on the same date. That Rowie or Ro bought acquired shares in Sandra, and Sandra acquired shares in TVEC on the same date. Okay, so our interest here is to get the percentages and you call it what? Vertical groups. So let's see how it's going to go about. We have Ara, then you have Sandra, then you have TVEC. Okay, we don't know how many shares that they have, but over the shares in the balance sheet. So by the way, begin with this one here. Like I already explained, so I don't want to go back to it. But this 6 in Sandra, it's 120,000. 120,000 shillings divided by 1, you get 120,000 shares. Then you bring down 120,000 shares. Times 100%, whatever you get, 390 divided by 120. 75%. Okay, so I feel that you're comfortable with the percentages, so I'm skipping some steps. Okay, then S bought shares. Okay, in TVEC. How many were they? They were 60,000, and TVEC has share capital is 100,000. Okay, 100,000 shillings divided by 100. So you come and you show that 60,000 divided by 100,000. And 100%, you get 60%. So I remember we said that under vertical groups, that R will control S, then S controls T. This is what is happening. That's now a vertical group officially. Now, for vertical group, how do we go about the actual, what you call the control? Okay, because now we're going to prepare Ara's consolidated books. Okay, we're saying he has 2 subsidiaries. How do we reflect that? We want to know how much control he has in each. What you call control interest control, or you would say interest in a subsidiary. So interest in subsidiary. Interest in the subsidiaries. Okay, so subsidiaries you have 2. You have S and T. Okay, so we're saying Ara's ownership. For in S is straight. Yeah, you're seeing it has 75%, and the non-controlling interest in S, you're seeing it's 25%, the direct one. Okay, so you come and put your 75%, right? Then the NCI, non-controlling interest ownership, We also see that it's 25% as far as S is concerned. So this is the normal group that you know. Show me you had only this information. That's the one we just did. Okay, the normal group. You bring the control is 75%, NCI is 25%, the normal. Now let's go to S. Now the T, R through S controls T. Okay. Now what's the ownership of R in T? He has an indirect relationship. It goes through S to get to T. Okay. So it's 75% of S, of which S has 60% of T, is what we bring here. So these are saying 75% times 60%. Okay, that's what he has. 75% times 60%. Okay, so you have 45%. Okay, then for the NCI, you can choose to think about it, which I will help you to, but otherwise you can just say it's the balance to make the 100, which is 55%. Okay, balancing figure. If you don't want to say balancing figure, then you can find the NCI the normal way, which we say that the NCI, it has a direct NCI, NCI, this one of 40%. Okay, as you can see, that 60 is by S control 60. So the balance is 40%. But now we're saying that S has an NCI of 25, which controls T also. Okay, so it's what you want to add. So we say here, same as 40%, which is the direct one, then plus the indirect one, which is the 25%, which passes through S on the 60. So when you compute these, you will get that 55%. But you don't have to worry about this one. Just worry about this. This they get. At the end of the day, you must have 100% in the end. So that's how we get the percentages. Okay, we can look at the goodwill and the non-controlling interest. That's where I will stop for the vertical groups. Otherwise, the intercompany, you know, if there's a sale, you look for the analyzed profit and remove it. It says whatever it is, those ones you know from what we just did. Then what else? So for goodwill, of course, you need the net asset schedule. So inevitably I can't avoid it, but if it was opportunity, I would actually skip it, because this is what we have been doing. So net asset summary of the subsidiary. I want to emphasize subsidiaries. In this case, there are two. But on the other time, it was only one. Okay, so we still, now if there are two, this is how you can go about it. Arrangements really differ, but personally, I prefer having first three columns for the first subsidiary. In this case, it will be S. And then the next three, that will be for the next subsidiary, which is T. So whenever you have a vertical group, we're saying you have two subsidiaries. Okay. Now, so this other part is for the details. So what am I saying? I'm saying at acquisition date, acquisition, what was it? Yeah. Reporting date, what were the values? Then what's the movement now? That is for subsidiary. Then the other one, which is the next subsidiary, still it has still acquisition. Saying that acquisition, what was the value? Then what is the reporting? Okay, let me skip some things. Reporting, then what's the movement? Okay, so the same way we've been doing things. So you go to your balance sheet under the equity section and you move all those items. So under equity section of Sandra's thingy, we have equity shares and then earnings only. So come and show those. Okay, equity shares and earnings. Okay, so the way they are is the way you bring them in from the trial balance and the reporting date. So I'll bring for both to avoid coming back again. So for Sandra, it's 120 and 56. 120 and 55. Let me connect my charger. Then Tvec has 150. Okay, so this is your information that you're bringing in the net asset summary. Okay, equity, retained earnings, the reporting balances, the way they are, the balance sheet. Then now what happens is you now look for the opening balances. The information is always given in additional information. I didn't share it, unfortunately, and I hope you have it. It's part A, which says that intercompany sharings or shareholdings were acquired on 1st January 2018 when the retained earnings of Sandra were 20,000. So that is at acquisition, 20,000 for Sandra. And then for Tvec, they said it was 16,000. Okay. Then what usually you're supposed to look out for any information regarding shares, changes in shares in equity. Did they issue any new shares, anything like that during the year? If they didn't, like it is in this case, what is at the reporting becomes what is at the acquisition. You have 120, then you have 100,000. Okay, and then you get the movement. The movement for Sandra, there's none in equity, but in then earnings we have 36. Then same story for Tvec. In equity shares we have none. In earnings we have that. Okay, so my interest on this, on the retained, on this working, usually the total and also the movement total, but even the movement I'm not really interested because ideally we always take line by line. Okay, so the main issue is the total of the net assets at acquisition date. Okay, so you get that because of time. The other information is useless. Okay, you don't need those for it. I'm not saying it's useless. So that is it. Okay. Now after getting the net assets, our working three says you determine the goodwill. Goodwill working. Okay, so for goodwill, we still have two subsidiaries. So we have a column for subsidiary 1, column for subsidiary 2. Okay, so the working doesn't change, that you need consideration, right? So the consideration in this case was given in the balance sheet. Okay, and I may take you there shortly. Usually you're supposed to check in additional information first. Okay, if it's not there, then automatically what is in the balance sheet becomes what they invested actually. So in Sandra invested 130, so you come and say 130. This one is the normal one that you know. So the 130 that we paid. Okay, then let me first concentrate on Sandra alone. Then you have fair value, non-controlling interest, which was also not given. So you're supposed to find it, which we say that you get the percentage of NCI. In this case, it's 25% from working number 1, and multiplied by the fair value of the net assets acquired, which is 140 from working number 2. Okay, you can see it here, 140 and the 25 here. Okay, NCI. So what you get is that you have 35 5,000. So then you get the total consideration, which is gotten by the parents' share and the NCIs. Then you remove, deduct the value of net assets acquired, okay, which come from working number 2, the 140. Okay, then what you get, you put the negative. So what you get is becomes your goodwill for S alone. So in case it was impaired, if they say that goodwill in S is impaired, then you deduct. I mean, you do the needful. Okay, so this is goodwill. Okay, so if there was impairment, you do the needful, as I already said. Deduct, come up with goodwill, carry down. Okay. Then now let's go to TVEC. TVEC, the consideration in TVEC. What are, because you're looking at Ara's books, okay, not S's books, Ara's books, the parent, the first parent. Okay, what did he contribute in terms of consideration to acquire T? And we say that you go to the investment that S made, okay, S made an investment of 110,000 in Sandra. Sorry, Sandra made an investment of 110 in TVEC. Okay, this is what Sandra put in, 110. But we're saying Sandra is owned by 2 people, the NCI and the parent. So we're saying how much the parent bring on the table. That's our interest. We're saying that he must have brought 75% since he owns 75% of Sandra. So we'll come and reflect that, saying on the 110, we only contribute 75%. Okay. So if that's the case, then saying 75% of 110. Okay, so it is 82,500. Okay, so that's what R, the other parent, contributes. Then you go to the NCI. Okay, NCI still, we're not given values, so we're supposed to compute. So in computing, this one remains constant, like I've been getting it. You get the percentage of NCI times the fair value of net assets acquired. So therefore, net assets acquired were 116,000 from working number 2. Okay, working number 2, T, okay, TVEC, times the NCI percentage. NCI percentage, you computed it in working number 1, and it was 55%. Where is it? Here. Okay, 55% is the NCI. So therefore, 55% times the 6,000, you get that. Okay, and then you add, gives the total consideration. And then we deduct net assets acquired, which is none other than the 116,000. And then you have your goodwill. Okay. If it was impaired, you do the needful, still put impairment and determine. So that's how we compute goodwill for both. So in consolidation, under investment, we take their under intangible assets, we take their goodwill for both, they combine S19 total. So you have this plus that, giving you the 55,300. So that's how we compute goodwill. Okay. Now, of course, other working intermediate, but let's go to working number. Okay, any number, but this is NCI. That's why the changes. NCI computation. Okay, for group retained earnings, you go and get, like it is here. You bring the share from subsidiary 1. Then you also bring the share from subsidiary 2. Okay, all these are profits. You're consolidating, you're adding them together. Okay, so let's go to NCI, which is also something new. So for NCI, we are saying still have 2 items or 2 entities from which you have NCI. And we say the first thing, let's deal with S first. Okay, S alone, saying fair value of NCI At acquisition, I already told you, don't disturb yourself. Go to working number 3. What you put there is what you should bring here. So for S, what I put there for NCI was 35,000. Come and put, right? Then a share of visit post acquisition profit, what you put, okay? Then you'll be done here. Then for TVEC, still you bring fair value of NCI at acquisition, which you put in your working 3 is 63,800. Then if there's any transactions, share of post acquisition profits, share of movement in general reserves, share whatever, then PAP, unrealized profit you put. Then in the end, there's that one standing line which says you have to reverse somewhat, reverse some investment in TVEC, okay? TVEC by R. Okay, you need to reverse that. Now usually we reverse the balance on this one here. When you come on this figure here, in your goodwill, this the 110,100, the balance on it, which is 25%, is what you reverse. So don't always think too much, just bring the 25% of the 11. Let me even put the way it is the other side. It is 110,000 times 25%. The remaining percentage will come here as negative. It's 25%. Okay, that is what we do with vertical groups. Okay, then from your workings, you take them to the consolidation. You add, this time, if it is PPE, you add for the parent, add for Chandra, add for TVEC. Okay, if it is inventory, then you just add. Okay, of course, with the consideration of any adjustments that occurred to those assets. All right, so let's look at the D-shaped group. It's not very far from this one. It's not any different, right? But you will see a few things, right? So let's see the D group. Let me put it adjacent to this one. So the D group, allow me use what this guy had shared. Back to looking. I already saw the percentages. In fact, let me do these percentages. So we got 10, 40, and 60. So this one. Let's be sure. It's this one here. Okay, this. Okay, so this was the group. I can share that working again shortly. I intend this to be the last discussion link at least that you're having. So here we saw how we extracted some information, how we got the shares and stuff like that. So please allow me just continue from here. Okay. So we saw how we came up with the group structure of T having 80% and stuff like that. Now, as usual, so interesting subsidiary. You want to know what percentage do you have as a parent, the T? Okay. How much control do you have as T in S and R? Okay, S and R. Then R here. So saying T's ownership, the parent's ownership. In S, this one is assured, the normal one, 80%. Okay. Then for non-controlling interest, of course, it's the balance. Which you know. So that's why you close your eyes on this and you're just looking at these two relationship here. Okay, relationship between T and S. Okay, nothing else. So it's 80% for T, NCI must be 20%, the one you know. Okay. Now let's go and now look at the R. How much does T have? Now, maybe to remind you, R is a subsidiary because T has 40% and S has 35%. So when you add the two, it's more than 50%. That is why it is actually a D group. Okay, if this had maybe 20%, okay, that is good. If it had 15%, the two do not make control powers. So they don't qualify to have a R as what? As a group. as a subsidiary. Okay, but it was 40, thank God, right? Hence particle group. Now, when you come here, we're saying T, how much ownership do you have in R? We're saying T has 40% in R, and then also T through S, it has control in R. Okay, so we're saying it's 40%. That is direct. Then the indirect one is 80% passing through S, which has only 35% of it. Right? So automatically our answer will be 40% plus because it's multiplication. So you have 68%. Okay, if you compute. Now the balance automatically becomes NCI. If you want to get out to compute it, I can still show you. But the balance, which is what 32%. Okay, to make the 100. Right. In case you don't want to use the balancing figure, which I would encourage you to use because it saves time, there's this passing through this way. There's the NCI, which is remaining. When you remove S's contribution and T's contribution, you have the 25%. Because T and S take 75%. So NCI without T and S being involved is 25%. Then there's NCI this side that passes through this one of 20%, which passes through S and comes and attacks R. That one is indirect. So usually say it's 25% plus the 20% in S, which has some control of 35%, some not control, but some influence, 35%. So when you add those, you must get a 32%. Okay, that's how we get what the contribute. Guys, I beg to stop here. If you have any questions, maybe with working number two, you know. Okay, so maybe let's look at what at the goodwill bit. For the goodwill, we're saying that it is still S and R. Okay, T having control. So we're looking at consideration. So still consideration, look at how much you paid. And in this case, it was said in the statements, I think. All along I was not sharing the working, guys. All along I was sharing this and didn't say anything. So anyway, it's what you get. Okay, so let me continue from the goodwill bit. So you look at the contribution that they made. The contribution is but for S, it is 65,000. Okay, 65,000. But T acquired S at the cost of 120. Okay, 120. So you go and put 120. We're looking at S first, which we know 120,000. Okay, then you look at fair value of non-controlling interest. If it is given, you put it here. So given, you compute it by multiplying it aside. Then let's look at R, which is our interest, which is our center of interest. For R, what happened is S brought in 65. Okay, but also T had brought in what? Had brought in 80,000. Okay, so 8,000 direct, then the 65 is indirect. So come and say we brought in 80,000 as T directly. Then through S, where we own 80%, we brought in 65,000. So this will be our total consideration. giving you 1, 2, 2. Then for NCI, it's normal. You still multiply the percentage. In case it's not given, multiply the NCI percentage, which was 32%, yeah, plus the fair value of net assets acquired. Okay, guys, unless you have any questions, I beg to stop here, really. Is here. Daisy, any questions regarding group accounts? Ronald, Pius. If you don't have any questions, it's all right. We're going to stop here. Otherwise, thank you for attending. And good evening.
Thank you too.
Okay. All right, guys, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Good luck as you prepare.